Good evening, fellow nerds, geeks, and fellow freaks. This is DJ MK here, and today we continue on our adventures of Lady Elizabeth Deverell as she continues to make the lady's choice. In the last episode, she has made her debut in Bath Society and has gotten the attentions of Mr. Amesbury along with two other potential suitors. Enjoying a picnic with her friend Arabella and her potential love interest Colonel Foxley, the two off gallivant only to find about a lecherous thief that seems to return people's belongings but to a different owner. And sure enough, that very thief has shown up in Elizabeth's... Okay, let me break out this accent for a few seconds. So, long story short, the thief showed up at Elizabeth's doorstep and took her silk gloves, but for some reason has had a very interesting attraction. As we pretty much know, this thief is Mr. Amesbury himself. So, will Elizabeth Deverell ever realize her potential love's proclivities? And when she does, will she still go for him anyway? Let us find out today at The Lady's Choice. Hope you enjoyed that introduction, everybody. I know it was a little rough, it was unscripted, but hey, it was fun. So, yeah, that's 3 days straight you see me with makeup today. Don't get used to it, though, because it's not an everyday thing. Plus, I just got back from my screening of Black Panther. Yeah, so I got back in the fan screen of Black Panther. I had loads of fun. I'm gonna have an episode probably this weekend, since it seems like review-wise, nobody's talking about it directly. So as soon as the weekend hits, since it came out just today, as soon as the weekend hits, when more traffic is generated, I'm gonna make a review. And possibly I may have to watch it again because I missed the introduction of the film, so... like, at least the very beginning of it. So there are some details I missed. But other than that, I got to see the entire thing. I had a wonderful time. So, if you've not done so already, go see it. It's a lot of fun. And, as you can see, I'm all dressed up, too. Well, then again, I am 90% Wakandan. Anyway, let's begin. Continue on with The Lady's Choice. So the last episode, like I mentioned earlier, got the attentions of Mr. Amesbury, who is kind of fascinated with this guy called the Society Stealer, and he kind of thinks he's like some sort of liberating atmosphere for it. So this guy basically steals stuff from the gentry or any high-ranking official and tends to hand it down to the lower stations, which resulted in a confrontation that happened at a picnic. So, kind of wondering, he's kind of like, what do we think of this? I mean, he thinks it's exhilarating, but what do we think of it? So I had 24 hours to think about it, and I kind of get what, I mean, on the one hand, it's kind of despicable the way he does it, but on the other hand, considering he has never harmed anybody doing this, at least not physically anyway, kind of see what he means by that. It's kind of more exciting. So, I can kind of see how he means by that. Yes, I suppose when you say it like that, there's something to see in what he's doing. He glances at me in confusion, unsure of my meaning. The man wears a mask and hides in shadow. I suppose the rebellion against the strictness of society only goes so far. Indeed. I think anyone would fear the repercussions of society. Or maybe their family. I found it sudden seriousness in his tone, but it is gone before I could think more of it. Come, let us speak of lighter topics. He places his free hand on mine wrapped in his arm, the touch making my breath catch. For a long while, I did not know what to say, his fingers on mine stealing away thought. Getting out of the friend zone here, apparently. Even though we should be friends in the first place, come on. And for once, it seems Ainsbury as no was either, as entranced in the moment as I. We spend the rest of the afternoon talking on more general topics, and never once do we part as we walk. A pang of disappointment settles within me as we return to the house. Please pass along my good wishes to Lady Ashburn. Of course, I know they'll be kindly received. We stand before each other, neither making any sign of moving away. Is this going where I think this is going? I'm gonna check chat for a sec. Hello to the one person who's been watching today. I hope you enjoy the show. Come on. There we go. But yeah, to those in chat, I hope you're enjoying the show. I certainly am. I mean, this is basically a Regency era novel, but in a visual novel format. So, hope you enjoy it. So a new moon in Aquarius. So, for those doing the ritual today, blessed be. Hope you enjoyed it. But that still doesn't change the fact. We stand before each other, neither making any sign of moving away. That is the one downside of changing locations. I'm never sure about what things are going to get set off. Anyway, gonna go on chat. We stand before each other. Sorry about that. I might cut this out in the recording as well and do a proper edit as soon as I get this done. Anyway, got a beautiful clock. It is a nice one, isn't it? Okay, let us get back to... well, I just worked in Wakandan accent for a second. I apologize. We stand before each other, neither making any sign of moving away. I wish we did not have to part. I could easily spend the day in your enchanting company. Your boldness continues to catch me unawares, Mr. Ainsbury. But I hope not unwanted. No, never that. As he steps closer, his nearness captures any words I could have spoken. It is all I can do to keep from blushing too deeply. Good day, Miss Deverell. He tips his hat to me, his heavy gaze never leaving mine, and moves to walk by me. I bite my lip as his hand brushes mine when he passes. Taking a few moments longer to compose myself, I head inside with a smile. Stepping inside the foyer, I am pleased to find that we have no more visitors. Thank goodness. Do you have a pleasant stroll, Miss Deverell? Johnson asks as I move to take my coat and hat. Very much so, thank you. I shrug out of my outerwear and move towards the drawing room. But I'm halted in the doorway by another figure who nearly collides into me. Miss Deverell! I did not mean to almost trample over you in my distraction. No harm done, Colonel. I'm surprised to find you here still. Yes, indeed, I do not mean to intrude. Is everything all right, Ernest? Oh, Elizabeth! Why did you not say you had returned? Let me convince Ernest his presence is not a burden. It's not that I do not wish to say, quite the opposite, in fact. But I did not realize the time had passed so quickly. Good company will do that. I suddenly wonder if it's not I who is the one intruding. What to say, what to say? I know I'm making unnecessary saves, but sometimes I like to come back to certain decisions and see how they would come out. Granted, a lot of these visual novels independently made do not have bad endings, but I still am curious. But... I don't want to get him in trouble, but I'm sure he wants to stay, but maybe keep it in silence and maybe they make a decision themselves. I remain quiet, watching us two gaze at each other for so long. I wonder if they've forgotten they are not alone. The colonel clears his throat and straightens. Well, if it's not too presumptuous, then maybe I shall hope to see you at assembly rooms tomorrow. Both of you, of course. A wonderful idea, Colonel. Until tomorrow. With a small, sharp bow, he strides to grab his coat and cape before leaving. Arabella moves to watch him go, and I hear a soft sigh escape her. I give her a sidelong look and smile. Ernest? Well... A flush of pink settles on her cheeks, not even slightly hidden as she pushes a curl of hair from her face. He's done so much for us in such a short time, we felt it only reasonable to be in such terms. I'm sure. It's official. I don't think Arabella's betrothed is going to be happening at all anytime soon, unless Foxley is said betrothed. But at this point, it's very, very low. I could easily say that. Why do you look at me such a way? I'm merely smiling, that is all. Well, maybe your smile should be turned on the package you received whilst you were on your walk with Mr. Amesbury. Now is your turn to smile at me in such a manner. I brush aside her obvious probing and glance at the long cream box set at the foyer table. I was not expecting a delivery. We moved to the box and I reached to untie the deep red ribbon holding it together. We both gasped at the bright, elegant, and rather large bouquet of flowers inside. What a display! Yes. And look, there's a note. I grasped a small cream envelope. My name swirled delicately across the front. Opening it, I frowned deeply at the words contained on the card. It was a true delight to spend time with such an intriguing lady. I hope I'll have the pleasure again, and maybe receive that conversation. Yours most graciously, the Society Swindler. Oh my! Arabella practically faints beside me, her hands grasping the table to keep herself upright. The gall of him! She snatches the note and reads it again. It seems shock quickly gives way to barely concealed delight. Though he does write with such elegant script. How will be the center of talk when this is known? Not that I should want such a thing. Elizabeth, are you all right? The card falls back onto the flowers as she turns to me with true worry. It's all such a surprise, I barely know how to react. Yeah, it'll bring some talk. I'm afraid this will make many of the ladies from today rather envious. Many of them seem quite taken with the idea of coming upon the swindler themselves. Indeed, I dare say you'll gain quite a large amount of their ire. But we mustn't let their upset deter you from enjoying the splendor of this display. She reaches forward to gently pull a large bunch of flowers from the box, a waft of sweet fragrance sweeping over us as she does. Johnson! The butler shuffles in, his brow arching at the flowers bundled in her arms. Do we have a spare vase? Just one or two, Lady Ashburn. With a cheerful smile, Arabella sweeps away with the flowers, trailing the beautiful scents with them behind her. Johnson moves forward to collect the box, a frown settling heavy on his wrinkled brow. Is something the matter? No, Miss Deverell, it is just... He hesitates, his fingers on the cream box. Yes? The mark on the box. I recognize its origins. I peer inside, brushing a few stray yellow petals aside to look at the emblem he's gesturing at. Lady Ashburn was correct. These flowers came from one of the most prestigious florists in town. It was a favorite of your father's when he courted your mother. I know for a fact that they do not collect orders without gathering information from their customers. You believe they may have a record of who sent these to me? It is possible, Miss Deverell. Thank you, Johnson. He gives a bow of his head before collecting up the box and shuffling away. Good thing we have a good, tight relationship with the butler, because my goodness, that is a big clue. Then I shall go tomorrow and see if I can't get to the bottom of this whole affair. With my mind decided, I moved back into the drawing room to wait for Arabella. The next day, I start towards town, having left Arabella with the promise I would not forget to meet her and the Colonel as soon as possible. The florist is one I've passed many times without thought, and the woman inside is friendly and polite. She informs me that the customer did provide details, which they later discovered were quite false. My excitement deflates at the news, so we're back at square one then. Of course. The guy is good at covering his tracks. But, before leaving, she is reminded that the man had paid for an extra favor. If the recipient of the flowers should come asking, then they were to give them another package. Doing my best not to appear too curious, I take the box and leave the shop. Standing out of the way people passing by, I open the lid of the small box, expecting maybe a posy. I am instead shocked to find my gloves. Oh! Along with another note. Curious minds should always be rewarded. Yours eagerly, Society Swindler. I grasp the card in one hand and the box in the other, unsure what to make of any of this. I've not heard of him treating the others he's encountered in this fashion. And is he not supposed to send on what he stole to someone else? With a sigh, I take the gloves and pull them on, placing the note back inside the box before tucking it under my arm. But you had it better than most people. I mean, at least you got your belonging back. Most people end up like getting sent to someone else, and then by the time you find out, it's like huge embarrassing squabble. At least it's one less you have to deal with, man. Speaking of packages, I got my textbook for my class, 20th Century Poetry and the Visual Arts. Loads of boxes today. I step back into the busy street, glancing down the road which will lead me to the assembly rooms. Miss Deverell. I spin on my heel at the sound of my name. A smile quickly spreads across my face of the man who hurries forward to meet me. Isn't that too coincidental? Anyway. What a wonderful surprise to stumble upon you here, Miss Deverell. Indeed it is, Mr. Amesbury. Besides, are we going to get a name? Are we going to get a name? Soon. Anyway. And where are you headed to, if I may be so bold as to inquire? I'm meeting Arabella and the Colonel at the assembly rooms. What luck! That's exactly where I am heading myself. Shall we walk together? I give an eager nod and take his arm, the two of us then setting off down the street. We pass through the park as we walk, enjoying the bright song and gentle bird chorus. I breathe deeply at the fresh air, feeling there is nowhere else in the world I'd rather be in that moment. For such a short acquaintance, I feel more comfortable with Mr. Amesbury than some people I've known for years. I glance sideways to him at the thought, only to find his gaze already upon me. His smile widens as our eyes catch, then he turns to look towards the path. I do miss the parks within the country. Your estate does not have gardens. Oh, yes, and woodland, but it's not the same as the park. A park is a wonderful place for meeting people in a subdued setting. You do not like the society of town, yet you miss it when you are in the country. You are a most confounding man to figure out. Really? Well, I humbly apologize. It is not my intent to bamboozle. Especially not you, Miss Deverell. I know, a lot of save files, but I want to have fun with this. I think you enjoy it. It may not be your intent, Mr. Amesbury, but I do feel you rather enjoy it all the same. If the effect is to make you smile, then I will continue to do whatever is necessary. He removes his hat before pulling me closer towards him. Okay. I almost pressed against him as he looks at me, and I can do little more than gaze back. Oh, I knew the shot was coming in soon. It seems your happiness has become a fast-growing concern in my life. A rare seriousness overcomes him, and I'm struck by the weight of it as my heart thuds in my chest. I smile, hoping he would not see how off-balance his words has left me. Then, I shall do my utmost to see it happen. The moment hangs between us even as we continue on, barely allowing me to catch my breath. I believe we're not far from the assembly rooms. Suddenly, I wish our destination were much further away. Just, whew, that shot. That was intense. Anyway. Suddenly, I wish our destination were much further away. The assembly rooms are as busy as expected, if not more so. After arriving, Amesbury leads me to the main room, where we are greeted by the heat and noise of the gathered crowd. Ah, I believe it's Lady Ashburn over there. Oh, I didn't know I was affected by that. Sorry about that. Oops. Can I go back? Can I go back? Back. There we go. Yeah, there we go. So I'm gonna increase the size of this. There we go, fam. Sorry about that. He gestures to one of the tables to the side, where Arabella and the Colonel have managed to find a space. She gives a cheerful wave as we approach. Ah, Elizabeth, you eventually join us. And you found Mr. Amesbury, how wonderful! Please sit, both of you. We do as she says, taking a place beside each other on the uncomfortable wooden seats. And you'd think they'd be more luxurious, but then again, this is an assembly hall. Of course they wouldn't be luxurious. Though, barely do we manage to take our seats than an excited voice calls to us. Miss Witter rushes to our table, almost wobbling as she comes to a stop. Yay! It's Miss Witter again. How fun. Oh, Lady Ashburn! Miss Deverell, is it quite true? Her words are barely audible between panted breaths. Is what true? That you were stopped by the society swindler! Her voice lengthens and becomes almost breathless as she said the masked man's title. I notice Colonel Foxley does not seem to appreciate the girl's obvious enthusiasm. Foxley's face, I don't know. Seems like he's pretty uncomfortable with it, but maybe I'll spare him the pain. We did meet him, or more accurately, he made a forceful introduction. I lean forward and place a hand on Miss Witter's. You should not be so excited to speak on such topics. Yes, you must do so in private, at least. We give a gentle laughter, hoping not to catch the attention of those around us. But you must tell me something more. Arabella rolls her eyes, but I can see she's eager to participate in this line of conversation. Well, he demanded Elizabeth's gloves as payment. He did? Oh my. You must have been so frightened, Miss Deverell. I have to glance away, any fear I had in my encounter with the swindler having long ago melted to confusion and the lingering memory of his gentle touch. Well, My words are cut short by the sound of the door snapping shut, and a pair of heavy footsteps echoing in the following shocked silence. You there! The shout reverberates around the hall, everyone's silent focus trained on Mr. Tinder as he marches towards Mr. Austin. You are wearing my hat. Ah, what an enjoyably familiar scene this is becoming. Amesbury gives a quiet chuckle, whilst the rest of us watch in surprise. Mr. Tinder approaches Mr. Austin, who shrinks back a little, but still attempts to look unaffected. Yes, that is definitely my hat! You're mistaken, Tinder. Maybe your fondness for sherry over tea is finally affecting you. The sight makes Tinder fumble on his words with anger. Now move along, man. You are spoiling the afternoon's pleasantries. I shall do no such thing until my property is returned to me. It was taken by that damned swindler, and I will have it back. Oh, dear me! We all give a small gasp when Mr. Tinder reaches to snatch the top hat from Mr. Austin's head. Except Amesbury, I notice, who only chuckles again. The two men continue to scuffle, and we can only watch on in confused shock. I will put an end to this. Yes, I suppose we can't let it continue, though I doubt either will harm the other just flapping their arms around like that. He throws me a smile, before falling foxily towards the two men to break up the spat. Oh, how exciting! But the gentleman barely makes 2 steps before someone else moves into the entryway and comes in between the two men. Enough now, gentlemen, or you shall surely send the ladies into a swoon. I do not believe either you should wish to be the cause of a woman's distress. Interesting guy. Wonder what his backstory is. He stands proud against the ire of the men, his voice deep and his words spoken with great authority. The two men glance at each other, before giving resigned nods. Apparently so strong enough that just his logic alone is able to stop them from fighting. Fascinating. Very well. I'm sure your dispute can be further discussed in a private setting. With barely more than a few sentences. Excuse me. Popcorn breath. And with barely more than a few sentences, the man diffuses the angered scene. He pats the men on the shoulder, a subtle indication for them all to move to a quieter corner of the room. The chattering once again floods the room, most conversations unsurprisingly having turned to what just occurred. Who was that stranger? Arabella throws me a resigned look, both with realizing the swindler has quickly been put out of Miss Witter's mind. I do not know. I've never seen him in town before. He is most dashing, is he not? I believe there are few who could deny that. I'm sure my aunt will know who he is. I shall do my utmost to find out. And before either of us could say our goodbye, Miss Witter scuttles away through the crowd. I barely remember what it was like to be so young and excited by the world. Miss Witter certainly seems to have an abundance of enthusiasm. I'm sure she'll be most pleased to share it with you. I fear even I could not contain such exuberance as hers. Our jesting is broken by the return of Amesbury and the Colonel, along with someone new. Miss Deverell, Lady Ashburn, I hope you'll allow me to introduce my oldest friend, Mr. Montfort. That's the guy! I glance up to Mr. Montfort, the man towering above us, to remain seated at the table. His gaze passes over us, before he dips into an elegant bow. I'd delight to meet you both. Hello? He straightens himself back up, a polite smile down on his face. Now, if you answer a few intellectual questions interestingly, maybe we'll talk. I do hope my interference in the early dispute did not make a bad impression. Quite the opposite, in fact. Quite the opposite, in fact, Mr. Montfort. But if anyone who would step in to help others can only make the best of impressions. His focus shifts to me, and I realize he is inspecting me closely for a long moment. I'm unsure what the outcome of his assessment is, as Lily smiles again. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear so, Miss Deverell. But this is a surprise, Pierce. I thought you couldn't make it this year. Business in the country was cut short, so I thought I would join you. I fear you would grow lonely in town. Your views in society not gaining you many friends. No, I said friends. Friends. Yet here I see you have joined quite the amiable group. Indeed, I have been most fortunate in my company this season. He nods to the group, and I had to swallow down a blush as his gaze lingers on me. I will find you a chair, Mr. Montfort, and you must join us. Thank you, Colonel. I would be most grateful. And with that, the group of us settled down to enjoy an even more delightful afternoon than the one we spent at the picnic. As the hours dwindle, we finally leave the assembly rooms to head home. We decide to pass through the park, enjoying the lingering heat of the sun before evening settles. Arabella and the Colonel walk on ahead, as is becoming their custom, whilst Ainsbury, Montfort, and I linger behind. Mr. Ainsbury happily recounts tales of his childhood spent with Mr. Montfort, and Mr. Montfort assures me that he's nothing like he was as a boisterous youth. Oh, come now, Pierce. There must be a little bit of rascality left in you. I fear my mother will go into hysterics should you ever think as much. Agreed. Do you have a house in town, Mr. Montfort? My family does. Oh, nonsense, man. That manor is far too large for you to rattle about in alone. You should stay with me. Mr. Montfort gives a resigned sigh at his friend's suggestion, though it seems only so as he can attempt to hide a smile. You would unliquor let me hear the end of it, too, if I do not, so yes, I shall move my belongings over. It would just like when we attended college. Oh, I do hope not. I got you, Mr. Montfort. I got you. I cannot stop my laugh. I cannot stop my laugh. Okay, okay, getting back to the Regency era. I cannot stop my laugh as I watch the two interact with such ease. It reminds me so much of my own close relationship with Arabella. And where are your lodgings, Mr. Ainsbury? My family owns one of the townhouses on the Crescent. The Royal Crescent? Arabella's sudden halt and question makes us all flinch. Ainsbury recovers from his surprise, smiling broadly at her. Yes, we have had it for a few years. Oh, I've always longed to attend one of the gatherings in a house on the Crescent. I hear they are most splendid. Then I cannot disappoint. I shall hold a select gathering in the middle of the season at my house. One that shall graduate all who have made it so far without being overcome by the tedium of society. You should not joke about such things, Lawrence. Now we get a name, finally! Lawrence Ainsbury. That's actually a pretty awesome combination. Pierce Montfort, Lawrence Ainsbury. Which would sound good hyphenated? They're both two syllables. It's kind of hard to pick. You know, we just met this guy too. Just, gosh. The gathering, or the boredom. Neither. You wish to uphold your family's good reputation. Arabella claps her hands together in excitement, ignoring the men's continual banter. Then I shall hold you to your word, Mr. Ainsbury. Why do we not discuss details? Arabella gives an eager nod and moves back towards the Colonel, ready to talk further on the matter. Before he moves away, I clasp his arm so he glances back at me. She's nice. You are most kind to do this for her. It is not entirely for her, Miss Deverell. The half-lidded gaze holds mine for a long moment, and I almost falter beneath the close attention. I shall leave you in Pierce's amiable company whilst I speak with your friend. He gives a final nod of his head before speeding his steps to catch up with Arabella and the colonel ahead. He has changed a little. Mr. Montfort gives a light laugh before turning to face me. I hope my conversations will suffice in the meantime, Miss Deverell. He offers his arm towards me, and I take it with a grateful, not graceful, though she is graceful too. Excuse me. That restraint. I wish I had that. Anyway. And I take it with a grateful smile. It feels odd to place my fingers gently against his arm, and I almost blush to realize how accustomed to Mr. Ainsbury's touch I have become. We walk a few places behind the others, watching as Arabella and Ainsbury talk in an animated fashion. Do you come to town every year, Mr. Montfort? Not every year, unfortunately, but I attend when I am able. Do you come by choice or by duty, as Mr. Ainsbury does? Unlike my friend, I most enjoy the company of society and its people. My brows curve at his reply. That surprises you. Indeed it does. I half expected you to hold the same views as Mr. Ainsbury, seeing as you are such keen friends. We do not make strange companions, but I find that is what keeps the friendship fresh. Such different views can keep us awake at all hours as we try to convince the other of the merits of one thing or another. We are nearly always in opposition at most topics. That is more impressive than your friends, then. And what of you, Miss Deverell? Seems those around town aren't sure what to make of you. So it's no surprise Lawrence has found an apparent attachment to you when you're so intriguing. I only hear a few words of his statement. You believe he's formed an attachment to me? Do you not think so? I did not realize it was supposed to be secret. He's certainly not one for keeping things quiet if that's what you have preferred. Or maybe is it that your intentions are not the same as his? I'm not gonna say anything. I want to assess more. I purse my lips and glance around at the thought, unsure how to respond. I do feel so close to Amesbury, even in so short of a time. Why should I deny the connection? Mr. Montfort suddenly speaks to break my thoughts. I apologize for prying. No apologies needed. His gaze flickers to meet mine, and I frown a little as he seems to hold it for a moment too long. He then glances away quickly. Tucking my hand further about his arm, he speeds our pace. Let us reach the others and join in whatever eccentric plans they are certain to have concocted. With a small laugh, I agree, and we hurry our steps to catch the others. As we reach the edge of the park, Mr. Montfort excuses himself in order to arrange for his belongings to be moved to Amesbury's house. With only 4 of us, I'm more than a little thrilled to find us pairing off. Amesbury and I speak on topics I never discuss with anyone, save Arabella: current literature, theology, even politics. He listens intently to each of my views before giving his own, and not once does he dismiss anything I have to say. Discussions keep me so engaged I barely even realize we have arrived home. Well, your interest must have led you to have heard of a new trend of novels. Quite scandalous, some of them. Tales of eerie castles, ghosts in chains, dark secrets, even romantic highwaymen. My father has forbade any books of that nature from the house, though my sister and I have managed to sneak a few in. You cannot think this kind of literature really rots the mind as other believes it does. I believe anything that spurs the imagination is a valuable commodity. Oh, unless you agree, but my idea that the horse-drawn carriages are a nuisance is too far-fetched. I could hear the teasing in his words, and I could not help but smile at it. Mr. Ainsbury, carriages may be a danger in some areas, but how else will people travel? I could not travel to town on foot now, could I? That is true. He steps closer, closing the small gap that happened between us. And I would never wish anything that would have kept me from meeting you. I stuttered to reply, able to feel the heat of his body as he is so close. Because my absence would have led to think you were right on all things. Because you engage me in all ways, Miss Deverell. Oh my. I feel a rush of heat flood my cheeks, and have to glance away for fear of being hypnotized by him. His focus remains trained on me. Even the chill breeze is not enough to stifle the heated air that clings about us. I let out a small breath through parted lips, and then watch as his gaze drops to them. Is he? Is he? You know what? I'm tempted to leave it here. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it here. I love suspense. Sorry, peeps. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me in this episode of The Lady's Choice. I know, it is Singles Day, but I think the most important part is going to love ourselves. And speaking of love ourselves, I'm going to go and do my chant, followed by a little bit of refreshment of this face, and then I'm going to head off to bed. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Tomorrow will be a continuation of this, as well as a new episode of Mastering a New Arena, Vainglory, the 5v5 edition. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Also, please keep an ear out for my Black Panther review. And in the meantime, please check out my other pieces of social media to tide you over. And until the next episode, and this is the end of this video. Blessings and peace, everybody.